as it goes to both confirm and strengthen the friendship between the peoples of Africa and China, and to discuss ways of boosting cooperation between their two peoples. In the meteoric transformation of the world within the past 3 decades, mainly through the knowledge revolution, these two partners are dramatically awakening to their respective potentials in the globalization process. It is this awakening that I believe CEIBS seeks to promote through strategic nurturing of entrepreneurial capabilities and capacities in both China and Africa. I'm happy that Professor Nweno and his team of initiators decided to site the first campus of CEIBS in Africa, in Ghana. A decision they made after calling on me as the sitting president of Ghana in 2008. The concept of CEIBS, I believe, is a powerful articulation and realization of the African Union's call for new partnership for Africa's development. This is indeed a cornerstone of today's Africa. And I just feel that the opportunity that was extended to me when I was president really helped to inscribe me into the history of the world that is evolving this century. Here, I wish to extend very warm welcome to all our distinguished guests coming from near and far. And I would want to mention in particular the Chinese ambassador to Ghana, Mr. Gong Xiaogong, who has been treating me occasionally to fine Chinese cuisine at his residence. The Chief Economist of China Development Bank, Madam Wang Yuan, Vice President of China Africa Development Fund, Mr. Hu Zirong, Founder and Managing Director of Shengwei Capital, Mr. Shayi, President of CEIBS, Professor Pedro Nweno, and Vice President and Co-Dean of CEIBS, Professor Zhang Weizhong. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we learned that the first contact between Africa and China dates back to at least 600 years, in the time of the Ming Dynasty, when an admiral of the Chinese Armada landed on the East African coast of what is now Kenya. The next significant arrival was in the early 1900s, when it is reported that 60,000 Chinese miners came to work in the South African gold fields. Half a century later, Chairman Mao Zedong sent tens of thousands of agricultural and construction workers to Africa to enhance ties with countries emerging from colonialism. Into this century, there has been a dramatic interactivity between China and Africa in diverse ways. In 1971, as Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ghana, I was privileged to lead my country's delegation to the General Assembly of the United Nations, where I cast the vote for the sitting of the People's Republic of China on the Security Council as a permanent member. Then in the mid-1980s to the 90s, under the late Mr. Deng Xiaoping, there was a massive opening up into Africa of Chinese companies in mining, construction, and investment in all spheres of the African economy. In October 2000, China and Africa founded the Forum of China-Africa Cooperation, FOCAC, comprising China and 50 African countries, as an effective mechanism and important platform for enhancing China-Africa collective dialogue and cooperation. Through the forum, China's assistance to Africa has been growing steadily. Perhaps steadily does not describe the growth much. I would say dramatically. As President of Ghana, I happen to have taken part in the third FOCAC summit in Beijing in 2006, hosted by President Hu Jintao and attended by 35 African heads of state and governments. Last month, I attended the second China-Africa People's Forum in Suzhou in China, and also had the privilege to visit the campus of CEIBS, where I met Professor Wei Zhong. The visit was very brief, but the spirit I felt there was very positive and added to my great hopes for the relationship between China and our continent of Africa. I must recall here that sometime in 2008, Professor Pedro Nueno, President of CEIBS, came with a team to my office to explore the possibility of establishing a campus of the CEIBS here in Accra for entrepreneurship training in Africa to be linked to China, and I believe Europe, because he's a Spanish man, and working to bring peoples of Africa and China together. We are happy that his initiative, or the team's initiative, has borne fruit and is growing. And I know that CEIBS has already acquired a site here in Accra to develop a permanent campus. And whatever can be done to support this good cause, on my part, I will gladly do. I'll do it. I congratulate the China-Europe International Business School for its insights to contribute to this development by coming to Africa and by organizing today's event. This conference, the first of its kind, is another hallmark in the rapidly and strongly evolving partnership between China and Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, the drama of the ever-deepening engagement between China and Africa is centered on trade and investments. Trade between our two countries, or our continent, and the biggest country in the world, China. China is not a continent, but very big country with the biggest population in the world. Grew from $6 billion in 1999 to more than $90 billion in 2,900, and roughly then split equally between imports and exports. And in 2011, the trade is estimated to have topped $166 billion, 3 times the figure in 2006. And as we've heard from Professor Wejong, it is estimated that within the next decade, the trade might triple. Already, China is the biggest trading partner of Africa. And it's estimated that as many as 750,000 Chinese are now living and working in Africa. Cumulative Chinese direct investment in Africa has exceeded $15 billion, with investment projects covering 50 countries. And the Chinese presence is found in the building of infrastructure. Here in Ghana, they are easily the first construction presence throughout the country, making roads, bridges, hydro energy dams. In fact, the second biggest hydro energy dam, called Bui, is ongoing and hopefully will be commissioned next year. And it's a contract between the government of Ghana and the Chinese company, of course, backed by the government of China. Under President Hu Jintao, he instructed the Ministry of Commerce of China and the Chinese bank to develop this dam, which really was perceived as far back as 1920 here, and successive governments just tinkered with the project they couldn't build. So an appeal to Mr. Hu Jintao by me, he instructed that the Ministry of Commerce and the Bank of China should sponsor it. And today it's a reality. And God willing, next year, we commissioned this dam, which would produce over 400 megawatts of power for Ghana. This year, half of the more than 50 nations in Africa are estimated to grow their economies by more than 5%. And some 7 out of the 10 fastest growing countries in the world are said to be African countries. I'm happy to say that Ghana is one of the 10 fastest growing economies in the whole world. I should say that whilst we are happy with the growth, I should admit that the growth, it tends to be more statistical. Many of us, say in West Africa, are now pumping oil. And so when we talk of growth based on the oil find, we are happy. But then, how much of the proceeds come back to us in Africa? The exploring companies are all foreign. Yes, and the concessions given them, they give carried interest of around 10% to our nations. The concessions also include interest to be bought by us of about 15%. But perhaps apart from Nigeria, I do not know of the other countries that are able to buy these shares yet. So what's happening is that the growth as recorded statistically is a fact. But then, in reality, it's something, a pie in the sky, We'll get there, but we are not there yet. And the benefits do not really devolve to our people yet. And it's the same with gold mining and many other concessions which contribute to the fine growth figures, but which in reality do not come to the people. They do not help improve the quality of life of the Africans. So the real issue Africa is putting forward is that the partnerships Africa needs must be partnerships that will yield so-called win-win benefits to both Africa and to the partners. But how do we realize this hope? We cannot realize the hope without centering on the factor of human resource development in Africa. Not until Africa is developed technologically, the people being pushed through education, and not just literacy or numeracy, but technical education, the competence for Africa to be able to negotiate fairly for itself. Africa to know its real interests in the relationships, in the partnerships, not until Africa gets or gives itself the personnel of competence and capability to negotiate fairly with its partners, the partnership would be more in name than in substance. So this is the first requirement, human resource development, so Africa can negotiate fairly and hold its own interest vis-a-vis the partners that will come from anywhere. And for this to be realized, especially in the current world where the market is so powerful and is so engulfing, everybody is caught up in the market operations. So with China, so with Africa, and so with the rest of the world. And the market doesn't tend to discriminate in terms of the creative powers and trading prowess of the partners. The intentions may be good, but if a partner hasn't got the competitive edge, the partner will not benefit. This is the plight of Africa. And this is why it is necessary that institutions like CEIBS should be all over Africa to help nurture our entrepreneurs, our business communities, so that in the market is operated by business people, by entrepreneurs, people who know how to risk calculatedly and profitably. We need the business schools like CEIBS to produce our entrepreneurs who would know what the market is, would know the relative strengths of the partners we engage with, so that Africa then may secure its own interests, to apply the interests to further the development of the continent and its peoples. For us to come by such business leaders, the institutions, as I've said, like CEIBS, are crucial. And we want to again appreciate the initiative of the CEIBS authorities in coming forward, the way they took the initiative to come. It wasn't Africa that invited them here. They, sitting elsewhere, perhaps in Spain or in China, thought that Africa should be equipped with the human resource to enable it, partner with the might of China, so that between Africa and China, given the huge natural resources of Africa, and also given the huge markets of China, and not only the markets, but the know-how that China is displaying rapidly in all sectors of development now. When these two partners come together, they would come to hold a very central position in the global markets. So Professor Nweno and his team came here and launched this idea, which is fast blossoming, and it's historic. And my prayer, though, is that even as we seek to maximize our respective benefits, we would be guided in the partnership by a strong social sense, a strong sense of humanity, a strong sense of history. So China, that is now acknowledged as perhaps the second most powerful economic entity in the world, which is still growing very fast, would not lapse into the tendency of this mighty and strong to exploit unduly the weaker partners. That China would be guided to help Africa quickly to stand on its feet, so Africa's share would be equitably given to Africa for Africa to develop itself. That's what I think should be done in this partnership. So the partnership can then last way into the future. Let me recall a bit of Africa's history so far. The continent, over the past centuries, many centuries, has been exploited to the great detriment of the peoples of Africa through slave trade and colonialism. And this is recorded history. Over the past 400 or 500 years, Africa has lost some of its best people and has lost the natural resources that has been exploited, not for the benefit of Africans, but for the development of other places. Till the past 50 years, this was the history of Africa. Then, within the past 50 years, all of Africa became independent. But independent more in politics than economics. The economy, even as we speak, is said to be neo-colonialist. Africa still produces raw materials that are exported to service the industries and development of other peoples. You come to a country like Ghana, look at the financial sector, look at the manufacturing sector, the trading sector, and I tell you, the major factors are not Ghanaian. So the benefits still flow out from Ghana to service the development of other peoples. This must be reversed, and it will be reversed only through human resource development of Africa. Africa should not expect its development to be done by forces and partners, no matter how friendly they are to Africa. They won't, it's not natural to expect them to develop our continent for us. It should be Africans developing Africa. And we can only do so through the improvement of the quality of the human beings of Africa. And we all know that this development will come through revolutionary education. All the children on the continent should be given equality of opportunity through state-supported education. Because there are so many poor people. If you leave the families to educate the children, majority of families cannot. The children cannot go beyond the basic education of, say, junior high school. It should be the state using the undoubted resources that abound here to give all the children the opportunity of sound education. And when we talk education, it's not just reading and writing, but education that would give practical capacity and capabilities to the people as high as possible. And then we should allow the private sector also to grow. I believe entrepreneurship is here naturally. You only have to visit our markets. Go to the Accra Central Market to see our mothers and sisters, wives. These people have not had any formal education, but they tend to be some of the smartest people, small, medium-scale people. Sometimes I'm just baffled meeting some of these people who may not be able to speak, say, English or French or Chinese, flying all the way to China to negotiate for resources to come and trade here. And the risk is their own initiative and little monies they use to travel. There's no guarantee that they will succeed, even in their ventures. But they risk to go as far as China to buy goods, come and sell here. This shows that such people, given the opportunity of education and deepened knowledge of the forces of the market around the world today, would be just fantastic competitors anywhere. So this is where I believe Africa should evolve the policies to encourage entrepreneurship and then free the private sector to partner their counterparts from all over, including China. This is what we need, and policy, therefore, should welcome institutions. CEIBS may be at the higher end of such institutions, but there should be other institutions going all the way down to service small entrepreneurs. A lot of them called informal. You take Ghana, for example, on the continent of Africa, the informal sector is far bigger than the formal sector. And perhaps there's more economy down there within the informal sector that is not covered statistically by the government. But we need institutions to help tap the entrepreneurial resources of the small and medium-scale people in our markets and in our farms all over the continent. When Africa is able to do this, and we have no alternative but to do it very quickly, otherwise Africa will continue to remain on the sidelines of the meteoric change that the world is experiencing all over today. It wouldn't be the fault of our partners if we are not able to compete. The fault will be ours. We want our partners to know this, but at the same time, even as we are admitting to our handicaps and asking that the partnership should